There are two ways to use Excel formula and functions. It's either you use it the normal way or you use it the smart way. Now, take for example, this very particular spreadsheet is a data that captures employee that works in an organization, and we have some criteria we need to follow for we to calculate the bonus that every employee is fit for. Now, if you observe carefully, you realize that the first criteria is performance based, the second is year of service, the third is departmental multiplier, and then finally is the attendance bonus. Now, the normal way of doing this is basically to create individual columns. You create a column where you calculate the bonus performance base. You create another column where you calculate that of year service. You do the same thing for departmental multiplier and also calculate that of attendance. I have created a video similar to this and I will link it somewhere around here. But if you want to do this the smart way, this is exactly what you need to do. You need to find a way to merge all these criteria into a single formula and function such that in a single cell you get to calculate the bonus of this very particular employee. I hope you understand. So to do this, let me walk you through. The first thing is to introduce the equal sign, and what we want to do now is to calculate the performance base, and this is the criteria we need to follow. The score divided by 100, so this is the score for the first person, divide by 100, and then I'll enclose this in a parenthesis so that it will look something like this. After I've gotten the answer, I will now multiply it by the basic salary, which is this very particular cell. Now, I have now calculated the performance base using this very particular formula. Then the next thing I need to do is to capture the year of service. And the criteria says if employees served more than 5 years, they should get additional 10% bonus. So I'll just hit comma on my keyboard. Then I will introduce the if function. So I'll just hit tab. My logical test is to test if this very particular cell is greater than 5 because that's our criteria. And if the condition holds, then a 10% bonus should be given. 10% is the same as 0.1. Now, after I've gotten the answer, I will now multiply this with the basic salary, which is this very particular one, for me to get my true value. I hope you understand. Then after that, I will now say, okay, if this condition does not hold, return 0. Now, I'm done with the if function, which is exactly what we have here. So I'll close my parentheses and that's it. I will now hit comma again. Then the next criteria says that this is a departmental multiplier. However, I will skip this for now because everything that you get will be multiplied by what is given here based on the description of the data. So I'll move to attendance bonus that says every employee that has 100% attendance get an additional 5% of their basic salary. So I will introduce another if function again to calculate that. So the if function will now says that if what is inside this very particular cell is equal to 100%. So I will introduce this 100% here. Now, the reason why I put it in an open and close quotation is because this very particular percentage is captured as a text. I hope you understand. This comes from the original data entry. However, you can convert it to percentage and there is no need for you to bring in the open and close parentheses. So don't be confused when you see something similar to this. Now, if it is captured as 100%, what will happen? Then we should introduce a 5% bonus, which is the same as 0.05, and that will multiply the basic salary. I hope you understand. Now, after this has been met, I will just close my parentheses. You can see that I'm done with the second if function which I just created. Now, before I move forward, you come to realize that at the beginning, I introduced this very particular cell where I calculated the performance base and then multiply it by the formula. Then I introduced the if function where I now check if the year of service is greater than 5, then give me a 10% bonus and multiply it by the salary. However, for those who do not meet this criteria, return 0. Then the third criteria is that if you meet 100% attendance, then a 5% bonus should be given, which will multiply by the salary, which is exactly what I have. And if this is not met, return 0. So I will just keep 0 as the value for false. Now, after all this has now been calculated together, what I need to do now is to sum them up. For me to do that, I will just come to the beginning of the function here. I will just introduce the sum function at the beginning of my formula, open my parentheses, then come to the end and close my parentheses again. I have now introduced a sum function that will help me add the first, second, and the fourth criteria. I hope you understand. What is left now is to multiply everything that we have here with this very particular departmental multiplier. So I will come down here, I will introduce asterisk in order for me to multiply. Then the next thing I need to do is to check which department each employee belongs to and what is the multiplier effect. So to do this, I will introduce a VLOOKUP function. Now, I will be using VLOOKUP not in the normal way that you know, but in a more smarter way. And this is it. I will make reference to the department as my lookup value. Now, when it comes to my table array, what you are mostly familiar with is just to drag a couple of range, something like this, that you have to, that it will present it as a range or as a table like this. But that's not what I will be doing. What I'll be doing is to introduce an array. They call it either fixed array or something of that nature, but the array is fixed. So to get this done, I will introduce curly bracket, which is this very particular one. Then in open and close quotation, which is similar to this, I'll come back and type the first department, which is sales. So I will make sure that I type it accordingly, the way it appears in this very particular column. Otherwise, it will return an error message. After I've captured the sales here, I will hit comma on my keyboard. Then I want to introduce the multiplier for sales, which is 1.2. And I have something that looks like this. Then I will introduce column. I don't know what you call this. Is it semicolon or column? Whichever. Then I will introduce this very particular symbol that will help me break the column and move to the next row. I will explain what I'm trying to do here, but let me just finish this. Then I'll introduce the other one. I'll open and close parentheses, open and close quotation. Then I'll now type the next department, which is IT, among the list that I have here. So as for IT is concerned, I have 1.1 as my multiplier effect, which is this. Then I will just create a semicolon, which is this very particular one. Then I will move to the next, which is marketing. So I will just type it here. Make sure it is inside your quotation to avoid error. Then the multiplier effect for marketing is 1.3. Introduce my semicolon. And then finally, I have HR. It should also be in quotation. So I have my HR here, and then I'll introduce comma. Then the multiplier effect is 1.0, and this is exactly what I have. I can now close my curly bracket. Now, let me explain what is happening. You see, when you introduce a curly bracket similar to this, then you are dealing with array. This is a basic principle as far as Microsoft Excel is concerned. I hope you understand. So, what is happening here is that after creating the curly bracket, I'm now giving an Excel instruction to capture this as a single column, to capture this as another cell. Now, this is one cell, this is one cell, and they all form together to make a single row. This very particular symbol of semicolon will now break it, and then it will now take this very particular one to the second row, and this will now follow it up as the second what column. Then it will break again. It will take this very particular text as the third row and also capture this one as the second column for the third row. I hope you understand. Then the same thing applies to this, which is exactly what we have. Then it jointly captures what we called our table array in this situation. I hope you get. So I believe this is a bit different from the way you normally use your VLOOKUP table. So what I will do next is to hit comma, then I will go to my column index. Now my column index is to return the values here. And the values here makes up column 2 in the small table array or range that I have created. So I will just type into in this situation, I will hit comma on my keyboard, then I will introduce false, which is exactly what I have here. My VLOOKUP function is complete. I will just close my parentheses, and this is exactly what I have. So the essence of this VLOOKUP is to look into these very particular cells and then capture the parameters and input them for me just like this. An alternative way for you to do this is to create a section. For example, you can create a column here and then assign the respective multiplier effect for it, such that you can just select range instead of doing this way. By going about it in this very particular strategy is more efficient. So now that I'm done with the VLOOKUP function, what I need to do next is to see. Now, there is no more condition for me to fulfill. So I will just go back to the beginning of this very particular formula. Then I will introduce the round function. The essence is to capture the entire formula and round it to a particular figure. So in this situation, I will round it to a whole number. So I will now capture all this very particular formula as my number as far as the round function is concerned. Then I'll hit comma on my keyboard. Then the next argument is the number of digits I want. Remember that when you are using the round function, if you put 1, then you are rounding to 1 decimal. If you put 2, you are rounding to 2 decimal. 3 to 3 decimal, 4 to 4 decimal, and so on and so forth. But since I'm rounding to whole number, I will just type in 0, then I will close my parenthesis. Before I hit enter, I will have to make sure everything is intact. Then I'll just hit enter on my keyboard, and this is it. It has given me my answer as this very particular one. Now, this might look complex to you, but it's something that is a bit easy. Although this very particular solution I just provided is not something I did at a single go. It's something I took my time, go through the condition, make sure I got it right, and begin to type in the formula. It gives me an error message, then I did it again. It gives me another error message. I corrected the error before I have something like this, which I'm just showing to you. So don't just see something like this and feel it's a magic. No, it's a gradual process. It's not something that's easy, but when you keep on being consistent on it, you get to master it and you begin to do it as a go. I hope you understand. Since I've calculated the bonus for this very particular employee where everything is captured in a single cell, I will just double click on this and it will just run it through. I hope you understand. So if you have something similar to this, you can smartly use this strategy to get it done. I have more of similar problems. Now, when I go to the next sheet, you can see that in this situation, we want to calculate which student is fit for a particular scholarship and how much, given the condition that we have displayed by the side here. Now, when I move to the next one, you could see that this is something that has to do with the value of property. There are conditions we need to meet by the side here. Just take your time to go through it, but the final answer will be given in this very particular cell. Then when you go to the next sheet, we have another problem. When you go to the next sheet, I have another problem, and I'll keep adding more and more problems that I have solved into this very particular list. So if you want to see how I get to solve the next set of problems, just subscribe to the channel and activate the notification icon because I'll be dropping them one after the other. And if you want to see how I solve this same problem that we just did in this video in the other way, then you click one of the link in the description of this video or move towards the beginning and just check one of the card I referenced to so that you can view that very particular video and make a comparison between them. If you want to understand more about formula and function, check one of the link in the description. I have a course dedicated for that, and I'll also place a link to this very particular Excel file so you can download and follow along. Until then, don't forget to subscribe, activate the notification icon, and share this with your friend, and I will see you in the next one.